today is very sentimental because my literal first day in radio, you came in. And it was so surreal because we sat and we listened to Soft Landing in Joe's office.
Amazing.
And I remember thinking to myself, if every artist from this day forward that I get to meet is as pleasant as JP Saxe, I am set.
Well,
It was awesome.
I'm so happy that I was able to feign pleasant for you.
Yes. You are very pleasant. No. Well, we're so excited to have you here, JP Saxe. Yay.
Thanks for having me back.
Of
I like it here. It
course.
feels very home. I love the posters. I feel so welcome.
Good. As you should. We love having you come in. Again, you're just so kind and pleasant.
It's
And
the Canadian in me. I have to keep up appearances. I have to represent Canada well. You have to keep thinking we're nice.
well, it's facade or not, that's fine with me.
Well, happy 1 year.
Thank you.
Almost.
Very
That was like 10
exciting.
months ago, so you're coming up
Yeah.
on 1 year anniversary of things.
I know. And I still don't really know what I'm doing, but we're getting there. And what we love about having you come in is it's just such an open space to talk about feelings. I literally
Talk about whatever you
let's
want.
just talk about
Any
feelings.
you're having, we can talk about those feelings.
Perfect.
I
Wow.
like feelings.
Yes.
I like analyzing them. I like recognizing that they're not the opposite of analysis or the opposite of intellect. Like
Okay.
thinking and feeling are not opposites. They're very intertwined and often much more important and more meaningful when you let them exist together.
Well, you articulate that so beautifully in all of your music. I mean, I know you talk about, or people ask you all the time about how you're able to pull off the incredible songwriting that you do. I actually wrote in my notes today how you were able to fit an entire phase of someone's emotional state into one line.
That's a really nice thing to say. Thank you.
It's so true.
I mean, I think it's because I am simultaneously like feeling too much and thinking too much. So if you feel too much and think too much, then you analyze those feelings, and if you like making music, then the analysis of those feelings ends up being in the songs.
Well, for instance, your new single,
When you think of me,
yes, in the first line, JP, the way that you say feels like a disrespectful oversimplification. Like, how do you make that sound so pretty? That's so many words, but you listen to it just like, oh yes, yeah.
feels like a disrespectful oversimplification to say we wanted different things. I mean, you know when you're talking about the end of a relationship and people are like, what happened? But they're saying it in a reasonably casual setting, and you're like, how many days do you have?
Mhm.
But, you know, they've just asked you in a loud bar at 11 p.m. when you're like, you know, drinking Red Bull and vodka and not trying to talk about that for 5 days. So
Mhm.
you're like, well, we wanted different things, and you just try and summarize a painful, difficult, and elaborate part of your life in 30 seconds in between songs at a bar. So yeah, it feels like a disrespectful oversimplification to say we wanted different things. That's where that comes from.
And the home team is so excited about this release coming out. You've been so vulnerable with them and been giving them bits and pieces of the song coming out. What has that felt like with this particular release, being so open with your fans that you are so adoring to?
I mean, being sincere is kind of at the heart of what I've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's varying degrees of simple depending on what's going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if my ultimate goal is to make music that makes it easier for people to be honest with themselves, then I'd be quite a hypocrite if I wasn't honest with people in doing that. So it feels like just central to what I think is important and what I think it means for me to be an artist.
Is there something that any of your fans have said to you before the songs even come out that's really stuck with you about getting excited to have this be in the world for everybody to have?
Yeah, I think thinking about relationships in a little bit of a different way than maybe pop music often leans into. I think there's a lot of pop music from the F you for hurting me perspective, which is valid, and I love a lot of those songs. And there's a lot of pop music from the I love you, I want you forever perspective, and not quite as much in the middle, not quite as much of the this was beautiful and meaningful and yet can also be over. And that doesn't make it any less beautiful and meaningful. And I do find a sense of purpose in writing about versions of love that are slightly less explored. And so when, you know, people who let my music be a part of their life are feeling that and appreciating that perspective and grateful for that perspective to be something they get to think about a little deeper because of the music, then that means a lot to me.
Wow. The articulateness that you have is just
Thank you.
awesome. We love it.
I appreciate it.
Of course. The thing about the song is it hurts so good, right? And my favorite lyric is, "Do you believe what doesn't last forever don't mean anything?" I mean,
It's one of my favorites too.
let's walk through the thought process of that particular part of the song and what you were feeling when that part came to you.
I think there's a lot in my life that has enabled me to recognize that love can be really beautiful, really important, and really meaningful without ending in death.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as a society, we've certainly um, put on a pedestal that version of love, and for good reason. That version of love can be really beautiful. It's just not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So that lyric, "Do you believe what doesn't last forever don't mean anything," I think is a culmination of a lot of things that have happened in my life that allowed me to recognize that. For example, like my parents got divorced when I was 15, and then still really loved each other, and were still really there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their marriage was really beautiful despite ending. And I've been in relationships that have all ended, but that I also really value,
Mm-hmm.
and just don't want to look back on with disdain. I think they were extraordinarily beautiful despite that. So I've seen a lot of examples of that in my life, and I think this song speaks to that understanding.
Because just because something doesn't last doesn't mean it didn't matter.
Exactly.
You still grow from it, you become better from it, and you move on. That's really beautiful to commemorate and kind of create in a time capsule.
There are very few things in life that last forever. And if things need to last forever to be beautiful and meaningful, then very few things would be beautiful and meaningful. I don't want to live in a world like that.
Sure. So let's talk about healing.
Okay.
We love to talk about feelings. Let's talk about healing. One thing that fans have noticed is that there's been some parallels in this song that you're releasing to a song of one of your partners, with one of the phrases being tally mark.
Uh-huh.
We see parallels in your song to one of Julia's songs.
Uh-huh.
Is that intentional?
Her song, "Falling for Boys."
Mm-hmm.
I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite Julia songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did do that on purpose. Tally line's a pretty specific lyric.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think, there's definitely a fear of fitting into that perspective. So I addressed it in that. I fucking love the song "Falling for Boys." Really good one.
It is a great song.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you've been sharing verses of your song on your Instagram story.
Uh-huh.
We've seen Julia sharing lyrics to another song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to know if this communication between your fans and you, and then her fans and hers, and obviously you guys have fans that overlap, of course, that are both so admiring of your
Sure.
music. Is this a part of the healing process for you? Is this how the communication is kind of happening right now, or?
Well, I mean, I'm 4 days from putting out a song.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you're putting out a song, you'll share lyrics on the internet to that song before it comes out.
Sure. Okay. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Is it part of the healing process to release music? I mean, I think songs have always been the way I've understood my emotions a little bit clearer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I would understand my emotional experience of the world without writing songs.
Sure.
This is definitely the first time I've ever released music like this about someone that people know.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just as vulnerable, just as sincere, and just as open when I was writing about a relationship that people didn't have any investment in. I think that's why it made it read a little bit different, but ultimately I'm still just going through the process of creating art from my experience and then sharing that art. My life has changed a bit since the last time I was doing this, but
Sure.
I'm ultimately just trying to be open and sincere. And, that verse was written a really long time ago, but
Sure.
just shared it this week.
Yeah. And regardless of, whenever the last time you did this was, the fact that you continue to do this and you share your experience and your vulnerabilities with everyone just encourages your fans and anyone who receives your music to feel open and free to do that too. And that's a super important and brave thing that you continue to do as an artist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'd be confused without it.
Mm-hmm.
I think artists have a unique opportunity to be able to think about their emotions and articulate their emotions with a lot more time on their hands than someone
Mm-hmm.
who has a job that isn't rooted in their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being a little bit over analytical so we can provide something that other people can then let into their lives and use as a bit of a window to get to those feelings a little sooner. I at least tell myself there's purpose in that.
Yeah, I absolutely think there is. And we mentioned your home team a little earlier and how much you adore them. That was one of my favorite things that you talked about the first time that I met you when you were here about a year ago. What can we get the home team excited about coming up? This release a catalyst
It's the
for
first
something?
song on the new album.
Yay!
So there'll be a
Okay,
new album probably early next year.
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Are you ready? That's a silly question. But
I really love it. I've never made anything like this. It's my favorite music I've ever made. It's the most sincere. It's, the fun of being an artist and a human at the same time is that as it means different things to be a person, you get to make art from a totally different perspective. It's informed by obviously previous versions of myself and previous versions of my art, but this stuff feels new and different and fresh. And I'm excited for the music itself, and I'm excited about the conversation that goes along with it.
fantastic. Well, we can't wait to help facilitate the conversation on Hot or Not on Friday night when your
Thank you
song
for
drops.
looking out for the music. It means a lot to me.
Yay! JP, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Yay!